Hello, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day in Jesus. The long-anticipated, highly anticipated Al Mohler Jr. Study Bible. It's really not called that, but that's kind of the way it is getting presented. So we're going to take a look at it. It's the NIV Grace and Truth Study Bible. And I'm not sure if NIV is part of the title or not. The engraving on the front is the embossing is raised lettering, gold, blue, kind of a deep gold. It's good. It's on the side too, has embossed lettering. I like that. I like the fact that it's got a ribbon marker in gold that matches the embossing. I have been trying it out as well. It's got to be Smythe sewn because of the way that it opens flat early on. It's a very well done Bible. It's not gold edging. It does have multicolor edging, and I'm wondering if that's because of study helps in there or if they intended on doing that. It's because it's not on the ends, it's only on the side there. So let's take a look at the ribbon marker first of all. A lot of folks are interested in ribbon markers. I like tube ribbon markers. It's just a basic ribbon marker. It looks about 3 inches. It's not one of those thick ones. It's a small one. I'm just grateful we're living in a day that we're privileged to have hardback Bibles with ribbon markers and hardback Bibles that are Smith sewn or Smythe sewn, depending on how you pronounce it. So, but this is, when I say it's not the Al Mohler Jr. Study Bible, it's because he's just the general editor. He had a lot of help. We may take a look at some of the people that helped. I am acquainted with some of them, and some of them I am not acquainted with. Let's take a look at it without the slip cover. A lot of you just take the slip cover off. I know that. You know, it's just very understated. Now, I do like the spine view. I appreciate Sister Waldron zooming in and out here. She has, among her incredible giftednesses, she has turned into a wonderful camera woman. But I do like that. That is there. So here's the presentation page, and kind of has some gold, accents. Doesn't have really pages to write. Doesn't have spine stabilization pages that, so many of them have. And I think that's because of the Smith sewn. It doesn't have decorative headbands and tail bands, and I think it's glued and Smythe sewn. So let's just take a look here. That's a thick piece. Maybe that is a spine stabilization page. It looks like it's in there just a little bit. I'm going to guess this is printed in China. Yeah, it is printed in China. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I have nothing against the Chinese people at all, that so many great quality Bibles for inexpensive are done in China. I did want to check out right off the bat too how many pages. I didn't do that ahead of time. It's about 123 pages, and that's before the 14 maps at the back. There's 14 maps. I did count that ahead of time. Sometimes I do like unboxings. I just go with, the first time I'm seeing it's the first time you're seeing it, and vice versa, unless you have one, and that's great. But this one I did do some advanced recon on. I was very interested in it. And so let's take a look down here. Abbreviations, alphabetical list of books. Okay, here are the features. Complete text of the accurate, readable, and clear New International Version. I'm guessing that's the New International, the 2011. Project leadership by General Editor Dr. R. Albert Mohler Jr., President of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. I'm just going to tell you, a lot of the people I run with, like Al Mohler is their hero. And we're Pentecostal and he's not. They just love Al Mohler. Insightful and practical bottom of page study notes. It is traditional in that. Apply the truth of each passage for lives shaped by grace. Center column reference for deeper study. comprehensive NIV concordance. I will say it's a great concordance for the NIV. I hope they bring it out like in King James or something. You know, I'm not a huge NIV fan. It is comfort print too. That's a plus. But even if you're not an NIV fan, you can get it for the study notes, obviously. Study Bibles are just a great deal. A lot of information packed into a little bit. Words of Jesus in red, 16 pages, full color maps, satin ribbon marker, Smith's own durable hardcover edition, exhaustive design of an NIV comfort print typeface, exclusive, not exhaustive, 9-point print size. So it's got some acknowledgments, introductions, quick start guide. And so here's a list of the editors and contributors. You may recognize some of these names, some of them you may not. You may want to Google some of them may have a Wikipedia page. The Southern Baptists are undergoing somewhat of a unique transformation, and it's been fascinating as a former Southern Baptist, growing up Southern Baptist, to see it. Southern Baptists traditionally have been one-point Calvinist. They have been Arminian except for Perseverance of the Saints, the P in the 5 points of Calvinism, the tulip of Calvinism. But around the world, like in the UK, most Baptists were Calvinist. And so it seems that that is heavily creeping into the Southern Baptist currently as well. So it doesn't have like a precursor to the Old Testament. It just jumps right into Genesis, and we'll see. I'm a big introductions guy. I'll tell you, I've probably learned just about as much from introductions in study Bibles, such as the Open Study Bible, but others as well, like the Ryrie, as I have anything. They're just filled with information. The one thing I found unique about these introductions is it's not bullet pointed, like author, date, purpose, Christ presented in the book, that kind of thing. It's just kind of a flowing soliloquy. And there's some things I disagreed with in there because I feel like they're a setup kind of for modernism, as it's called. You know, and I'm not Amish, I'm into modern things, but is the philosophical understanding of modernism. Let me just read to you what I mean by that. It just says Genesis is a theological book. It's not primarily a book about doctrine, nor a history book, nor a scientific treatise, nor a political tract. So whenever it starts saying it's not a scientific treatise and all this, it's kind of setting you up so we can believe in evolution and these type things. But there is some good stuff in the introductions. Many details in the New Testament presuppose the knowledge of details from the first Old Testament book, on and so forth. Genesis is the grand overture to the biblical story. So I like a lot of that. The center column reference, to me, is kind of unique. It's just the traditional lettering system. And I think I've gotten so used to, like Cambridge came out with a really easy system, and a lot of them have followed that. Like it'll just be like Genesis 1:1, I'll say 1:1, and then it'll have all the references in there. Whereas this one's just kind of haphazard, and it kind of flows with the scripture text as well into the center column reference, making it kind of busy. And it's like, I personally like side column references probably best of all. A lot of them, including like to Schuyler Canterbury, not officially a study Bible, but some others have been doing this, have been coming out with the bottom of the text references. I appreciate those. Of course, the easiest is in the verse references. That's kind of how I was raised on old Thomas Nelson. And it's 9-point print, easy to read. Now, I'm guessing, and I've got my little measuring stick for print size, but I don't think I'm going to use it. The notes are like 8-point, maybe 8.5 or something, 9-point. And the introduction matter is not 9-point print either. It's like, I would guess 8.5-point print. It also does not have in-text like headers, except it does have beginning of chapter headers. It's got a lot of notes, a whole lot of notes. And we live in South Georgia. There are gnats, and somehow a gnat has made its way into our home and is tormenting my nasal passages. This is an interesting phenomenon. Okay, and so it looks like it is 0.375 inches is how much writing room you've got on the side. It looks like you're going to have about the same at the top, even though the top looks like it's more than the bottom to me. Maybe it's a half inch. Let me make sure I'm just measuring this correctly. Maybe it's 0.45 or something. I'm sure it's on the Nelson website. Same on the gutter, but see how it lays flat? I'm in Genesis 4. Now it doesn't have much at the bottom, so let's head to the bottom here. See, even at the bottom, no, it looks like about 0.3 at the bottom, 0.3 inches at the bottom. Let's go back through this. Yeah, 0.375 on the side. It's got more at the top. So let's just see what like the introduction to Exodus looks like. Showing you Genesis. This is what Exodus is going to look like right here. Again, I appreciate Sister Waldron zooming in there. Been an interesting few days pastoring, a lot of interesting things. We had just a little tiny bit of a COVID outbreak at our church. So mainly amongst our leaders, and then some other just tragic things, people passing away, friends and stuff. It's just interesting. So you can see how the introduction is. Pretty fascinating. So let's go to Psalms. Sometimes Psalms is set up different. This is how Psalms is. Now in Psalms, the center column reference does look like the traditional that I'm looking for. The Smithsonian, what helps there is it's like you've already broken in the spine. So there's really no need to break in a Bible. I did a video years ago on how to break in a Bible. It's on the channel still. People still watch it. And but you don't really need to do that with a Smithsonian Bible. And for hardbacks, man, that's just fantastic. I'm just going to check something. Maybe I was seeing something. Yeah. So it looks like it was just Genesis 1 that I was having to struggle with here. Yeah, so the center column reference does in fact do what I desired it to do, and that is a good thing. It's got a lot of center column reference. I'm also noticing as I go through this, there are in periods, in places, there are headers that are not chapter divisions as well. So please excuse me for that unintended portrayal incorrectly. Let's go to the center of the book, the Bible, and see if there's anything there. Yeah, I'm seeing some good headers. Now, what it is, the headers are in gold, and it's kind of gold, and it's just difficult to read. So the chapter headers are in black, the other ones are not. But sometimes there are things between Malachi and Matthew that are valuable. There is not in this case. So let's see if we can get a good representation. The Sermon on the Mount looks good on the red lettering. And the red lettering to me looks great. It does not look like it has a lot of fade. I'm going to turn to a couple of other pages of red lettering. I was looking at it the other night and it looked solid. You know, Cambridge years ago came out with almost an orange red letter, and it didn't work for my eyes, but it evidently worked for some people's eyes. Red lettering is so hit and miss. Since Louis Klopsch started it in 1898. We've done a review of that here on the channel. Yeah, see, it looks good. It looks good. Man, and I hate it. I misrepresented that center column reference there. That does, but what is in gold? It is difficult to see. Wow, depending on your lighting. Okay, a lot of references it looks like as well. Let's see what a note on 1 Timothy 2:9 reads. Let's see how it is. Okay, so I'm just going to take just a few moments and read just a little bit. Paul now turns to men everywhere and instructs them to engage in prayer in a unified and peaceful fashion. And then he gives a reference of Malachi 1:11. This may refer specifically to elders' meetings, but may also have a broader scope. Most likely, lifting up holy hands points to several men leading the congregation in prayer in keeping with the Old Testament practice. You have several references there. If God's people are not unified, their prayers will likely not be heard. Therefore, it is vitally important to remove all potential barriers to effective prayer so that the church's mission can go forward unhindered and undergirded by the blessing and power of God. Next, we come turning to women in the congregation. Paul continues to provide instruction to safeguard the church's unity in keeping with ancient standards of propriety. Women are to dress modestly, not with ostentatious hairstyles, jewelry, or clothing. Their true adornment should be the noble deeds they perform. This stands in a sharp contrast with the worldly styles of women's adornment that patterned themselves after the leading women in the Roman Empire and focused on women's external appearance while neglecting their inner character. In this vein, just as all believers should aim to live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness, so women should learn in quietness and full submission. So that's pretty interesting. A lot of fascinating things. I wonder what it says about 1 Corinthians 11. Let's go there. 1 Corinthians 11. That would be interesting. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. I will tell you, just because of the light, we've got special bright lighting in here for the videos, and it is not doing great with this this gold. I did want to say too, it's kind of got an outline going on too. For those of you that like to do outlines of books, that's a good thing. So for a wife not to cover her head is culturally improper and goes against what Paul and other churches practice. Paul argues inductively from nature as follows. His observation: long hair is honorable for women and dishonorable for men. The reason God gives women long hair is a head covering. The probable conclusion: it is proper for a wife to pray with her head covered. Paul implies that it's fitting for women to cover their heads because they have long hair. He does not mean that the covering throughout this passage is a woman's hair, rather the head covering that a woman wears. Otherwise, men would have to either go bald or shave their heads, since they must not cover their heads. Yeah, I don't think that follows. And verse 6 would be incoherent. Paul appeals to nature, the creation principle. So, it's interesting. Kind of pushing head coverings there. So in the back, I noticed this. It is red letter in Revelation, by the way. And it has a little table of weights and measures, which is always handy. But then the Concordance is like Mondo. It's 1809. It starts at page 1809. If I'm reading that correctly. Yeah. 1809. And goes through 2119. So that's 316 pages of concordance, and it's not bad print. It's actually a good print, which is so rare to find in concordance. Even giant print Bibles, sometimes the print is just so small in the concordance, it's almost unusable unless somebody has a magnifying glass, excuse me. But so that is so cool. Let's go to these maps. It says 16 pages of maps. I think for some reason I was thinking there's only 14 maps total. It does look like these Zondervan maps. This is map 13. Let's see if I was right on that. Yeah, map 14, because some of the maps are 2 pages. So I'll just show you one about the apostles' early travels and Jesus' ministry. Now, I tell you, another way to just learn a lot about the Bible is just reading Bible maps. And it really helps get a setting of where things are happening in the Bible, how far travels were, a lot of good things about Bible maps. So that is good. So Bible maps, just good Zondervan maps. Now, one last thing we're going to do is we're going to measure